welcome back to All for United WFC. I knew one team would let me down in the derbies yesterday. I did not think we'd be sat here talking about this one. Not going to lie, I thought it would be the other way around and it would be the men's side that we didn't get a result from. But here we are. We've got obviously Barry Chai back as usual Monday. Vic is pretty much a regular on the channel now, so everyone should recognise her on the channel as we go through what was an awful showing. I think we can all agree yesterday at LSV. So we're going to get into all that. We're going to do this as we usually do in kind of the order of how the game happened. So it's going to be quite positive for the first 15 minutes or so because it was actually quite a good start. And as the game went on, we're going to be struggling to find some positives to get into. So get your thoughts in over the next kind of hour or so. We'll get through all of those. Emily, I can already see you in the chat. I'm sure you're absolutely loving this. And the only one to get the correct score, because I'm pretty sure you went 2-1 Liverpool. So yeah, we all doubted you. It turns out maybe you knew deep down. Charlie and Vic, I'll just come to each of them and just ask you, obviously, as we usually do in these things, a little bit on the atmosphere yesterday, because there was some interesting moments. There was, I think, Charlie, starting with yourself, obviously there was quite a few more Liverpool fans than I think we thought there was going to be there. I didn't see many outside the ground, but as the game went on, they just seemed to grow on that East stand. There just seemed to be more and more of them over there. And a little bit of a flare incident as well, which was not something I've ever seen at any women's game before I've ever attended.
Yeah, they travelled well, which is what you want, isn't it? That's what we've been crying out for, is a little bit of atmosphere. I mean, they were mute for large portions of the game, but they were there in number. The flare thing was embarrassing, mostly because it only just went over the hoarding. So whoever threw it, it's an embarrassment. Poor parenting. Better throwing technique required. And it was red, so it could have been for anybody. So jokes on them. But yeah, it's nice to see away fans travelling in numbers and it not just being sort of City, Arsenal and Chelsea that do so. So I think it's only a good thing, isn't it?
I was going to say, it didn't really make it. They stink as well, those flares. When they finally die out and the smoke, they are horrible to be anywhere near. Vic, for yourself, what did you make? Because you were on the East Stand, weren't you? So you'd have been nearer the Liverpool fans than us two over here. Yeah, what did you make of the atmosphere overall? Did it feel like a rival game to you? What did you kind of make of it that for?
Yeah, I think it felt like a proper United versus Liverpool game yesterday. I feel like last January I was there and I was in standing last January and it was like mute from, like, there was hardly any Liverpool fans there. Whereas this year it was quite nice that they did turn up. Not nice for us in the end, but it makes it a better atmosphere. But yeah, I was literally like right next to them. They were going for it, to be fair to them. But like first half hour, they were nowhere to be seen. So yeah, it was a good atmosphere. Just a shame about the result at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I didn't even notice many of them, but like she said, as the game went on, it seemed like I just said they just seemed to grow. Like I said to Mia at one point, I didn't realize there was that many of them there in that block in that corner. So yeah, and yeah, you are right, Emily. To be fair, and they did throw one on the pitch at Stamford Bridge, but I don't know why throw them on the pitch. I guess it's to get it away from like who the person is that's lit it, because obviously you get kicked out for that. But I just find it amazing how you've managed to get into LSV. I get stopped with a bottle of water trying to get into the ground. So I don't know how someone's got a flare in. Because I remember they maybe throw my water away when I tried to get in at Everton at Conti Cup a few weeks back. So pretty impressive whoever's managed to get that in. So there we are. It was quite something. Also, everyone in the comments saying already.
I can't remember what I said.
Nor me. I'm trying to think now.
I do recall it, but I can't remember the exact words you used, but it wasn't pleasant.
No. Maybe I can't remember. I've got to be honest. We'll revisit it, I'm sure. Yeah, 15 minutes. I'm talking more about the 15 minutes of the game, to be honest. I think there was a one on that one. There we are. Should we just get to this question before we actually go into the game itself? Because I think it's going to be it was on everyone's mind. I've seen so many tweets asking this question and all these kinds of things. Has Marriott played her last game for United?
Yeah, go on. Why not? See you later. Just something's not right, is it? Her performances have not been up to par. Distribution is poor. Body language is poor. communication towards the other players is very negative. And I know that like this is a football game. I'm not stupid. Like I know that players can have a bit of a go at each other at times. But Roy Keane was arguably our greatest captain ever, and he gave players a rollicking. But I just think she just exudes blame at other players when things don't go well. So it's not working at the moment. It's a shame. I am pleased that my daughter got her autograph. Evelyn was buzzing. But apart from that, she didn't offer much, I don't think, during the game. Apart from that little autograph at the end for a 5-year-old. Just poor. If she wants to be gone, go. And the thing for me is, I might set Barry off here as well. If she's going, and the club will know at this point, I assume if she's going, just play Fallon. Literally just play her. Somebody who actually wants to be there. I just find the whole thing baffling. I don't want another Russo situation where it just goes horrible, but it kind of has, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's the only thing I will give. Obviously, we'll talk about her save as well, but the one thing I will give her is credit. She did go around everybody yesterday, and she has done for the last few weeks as well. She's very good with the fans at going around every single person. She got taken away and then came back out after she'd done her media things as well to go around some of the fans. So I will give her credit on that point of view. It's not all negative when it comes to her, but certainly agree with Charlie on the other points. Vic, do you think she's played her last game there for United?
I hope so. I have to say, yeah, I hope so. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I guess if it is her last game for United, she didn't leave on a bang, did she? So you have to see who wants her after that performance yesterday. And yeah, if you go in, go. I can't wait to see, hopefully, Fallon in there. That'd be really nice to see. So yeah, like you said, I've said it loads of times on here. I don't rate her, and yeah, she can leave. If you don't want to be here, don't be here. No one's making you. So yeah, off you go. I think Mark just needs to grow a pair and drop her. If she does stay, he needs to drop her and give somebody else a chance, because it's not working at this moment in time. I don't like the way she treats the other members of the team. I mean, I watched it back on TV as soon as I got home last night, and she's shouting swear words at her defence once again. I don't like it. I never will. And, there's one part of being a team and one part of wanting to be a team. And I don't think she does. So, yeah, off you pop, hopefully.
Come on, Barry. What's your thoughts on this? Do you think she has?
I thought Mary Earps had a fantastic game. She was a wonderful goalkeeper. She's a credit to the football club. And, I think 100% best goalkeeper. Who am I kidding? What is going on? I had this conversation days ago. And, Mark Skinner's going to get the sack. And when he does, the next message that I send him is going to be, why didn't you listen? You listened to me all last year and we finished second and nearly won the league. And this year, you're just doing what you want. You're like, you're a little rich kid just playing with your little toys. And it's not working, is it, fella? It's not working, because you are making some absolutely diabolical decisions. Just diabolical. You don't come out and say, when all of the media speculation that's going around is going around, you don't come out and say that as long as Mary Earps is at this club, she's our number one. That's if you're PTJ right now, you're just sat there going, so why am I putting all of the positivity? Why am I putting all of the hard work? Why am I bothering if I'm just here for next year? Why am I bothering? So that's your first thing. So your substitute goalie, your second string goalie, whatever you want to call her, even though she's actually one of the better ones, is now sat there on the bench, knowing that doesn't matter what she does, Mary Earps is number one at this football club until such time as either Mark Skinner or her decides. It was a good save. I'll give her that one. But I was talking to you about it, Connor, and it blew my mind. The second goal. Now let's just compare it again. Compare and contrast. If you can remember, for England, she made that mistake. All choked up, could barely talk. was terrible. It's horrible. Didn't enjoy it one little bit. That second goal goes in. She turns around to her defence and she basically goes, "Yeah, no, whatever." And honestly, the minute I saw that, I mean, to be fair, I'm surprised my telly made it because I was tempted. So I was having a nice bit of cheese and crackers, sitting there watching that. Nearly went straight through the old television. I honestly, like, it's a good job I put the sharp knife down because I think I might have been trying to stab the telly and all sorts, because the way that this is going, it's just atrocious. Now, the simple thing is it her last match? I don't know. Probably not, because Mark Skinner seems to be on some sort of kamikaze mission this year where he just does random stuff that nobody fully understands. And I just don't get it. I just don't. We have got a perfectly adequate, decent goalkeeper who we could blood him. Mary Earps has spent, how old is she now? 27, 28?
She's in her 30s, isn't she?
In her 30s? I always like to be polite, Connor. Always. So let's say the last 15 years of her career being absolutely just iconic and an absolute role model to people to get into goalkeeping. And the last 4 months, 5 months, even 6 months has just been a masterclass in how not to deal with fans. Honestly, it's just atrocious. Like, sports personality of the year's coming. I'm going to vote for everybody except her, I think. Just because I can just see it happening, and it's just going to keep going and go to her head. And I'll tell you what, the way that it's going, these transfer negotiations, they're not going to be that simple. They're just not. Like, interest doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go. It depends on how she feels about it as well. So I just think it's going to be, like, I've just had enough. Like, I very rarely get like this, but the way that she has disrespected this football club has annoyed me, as everybody knows. So has she played her last game? I really hope so. I really, really hope so. Will she have? Probably not.
I think that's the thing, and I think I've got nothing really to add to what the rest of you have just said, but I do agree with Sporty's point. I think there is probably something behind it that he has to play her, which should never be the case, and I will stand by that. I've said this on the men's side for years, that should never be the case, but I think there's probably something there that he's probably been told you've got to play her because of X reason and X reason, but that shouldn't come into playing football, but it does.
If that's the case, we might as well just give up now.
If the manager's not allowed to pick the side, then that's it, we're done for.
It's pathetic.
I really hope that's not true.
What is that?
Yeah. I hope it's not. I just think it is. Because that's the only reason I can see as to why. In answer to the question, I hope she has. I don't think she has. As it stands at the moment, I've changed my tune in a week. I expect it to be playing against Chelsea at the end of Jan, which I'd never thought I'd be saying, but there we are. Who knows? Negotiations go on.
I just said we were doomed. That was an overreaction. I was emotional about it. We're not doomed. It's just not a good sign. Okay, just want to rewrite that.
So good. Correcting yourself there.
I'll go with it. We are doomed. If that's what we're going to do. If managers can't pick their own side because they have to have people from above, like, it never works. You've got to give people the ability. How can he live and die by his decisions if he's not making the decisions? Like, we don't need puppets. It's not bloody Pinocchio.
Just want to add, though, as well, like I was saying to Connor before, like, not that I'm going to stick up for Mary here, but I mean, last year, I'm all a Toon fan, but she weren't on form and he wouldn't drop her either. Like, it's a bit of like a Lionesses FC, I guess. Like, it's like he goes for the bigger players for the names. Like, Tooney 1000% should have been dropped last year. Yes, she was being subbed off, but sometimes she shouldn't have started. Zell this year, we'll probably move on to that from yesterday's performance, but Zell again, I've been saying it all season. She's on the pitch. She's great at set pieces. There's no one better than her at set pieces, but he's not going to drop her either. And I think sometimes he's just going for the name more than anything else, and it just can't happen. And if he wants his side to win, then he needs to grow a pair, as I always say. Like, it's just not working, so change it. Like,
it's that adaptability, isn't it? I think, you know, everyone in the chat is pretty much agreed with everything that we said. You know, if she's going to move on, obviously then play Fallon. Obviously, we're at that point now. We've got no more games. Obviously, we've got the game in Malta against PSV, but that's just a friendly. And obviously, the game against Newcastle on the 14th, which we'd expect Fallon to come in anyway, because that's probably going to be a rotated side with Newcastle obviously being a couple of divisions down. Although I wouldn't write off Newcastle. They are a good side, albeit in Tier 3. They're better than most teams in Tier 3 anyway. But we'll get to that close to the time. So, yeah, interesting times ahead when it comes to Mary. I would expect a lot of briefings and a lot of things to come out over the next few weeks, because that's just what we're going to see with this kind of transfer and it being high profile and everything else. So it's just going to be frustrating, I think, is the word for the next few weeks. Right, let's get the positive out of the way, because it started pretty well yesterday. Kind of opening couple of minutes. Ella again on the score sheet. And overall, I think the first 10, 15 minutes, I think I said to Mira at one point, like, this is really good football we're playing here. Moving the ball quick. We had a lot of chances. And it was looking good. So, Charlie, for yourself, obviously the first goal, Ella on the score sheet again. And just that first 15, 20 minutes in terms of how good we were playing at that point.
Yeah, played really well. Like I said, quick football, pass and move. Liverpool was struggling, I think, against us. There were a couple of opportunities, obviously, after the goal as well. I think it was from a set piece. Millie heads it onto the bar. Mallard, I think, takes it around the keeper, perhaps. It's maybe goes a little bit wide. The angle's a little bit tight and chooses to shoot rather than perhaps play it back across the face of the goal. I think Toon was there for a tap-in. And hindsight's a wonderful thing. You think if one of those two goals go in, it might be a completely different story, but as is the story of our season, probably bar one or two games, both against Everton, I think we haven't maintained that standard of performance throughout. There was just a complete drop off, and it's. I know you want to talk about the positive, but it's really tough. It's really tough for me too, because for the first time ever, it's just massively deflating. I think trying to be positive about it all of the time, when sometimes it just can't be. I think, his first season in charge, it was a lot of not hanging on to 1-0 leads and drawing. And now we're losing instead. And one win at home in the league is dreadful. Like, that's relegation form. If we weren't performing away from home, that's relegation form. So, yeah, really good start. But in the end, it meant nothing because they couldn't capitalise.
I certainly want to come back to the home form, because you said we made pretty much a fortress last season, and obviously under Mark Skinner it's been pretty good, but this season he said 1 in 5. It's been very poor in the league, so I don't want to get back to that as well. I thought you were on about the bar that I kept hitting, that we were stood in front of, how annoyed I was getting. I've got to be honest, and I read the rest of it, because especially that second half I was getting incredibly frustrated. But yes, that Millie one off the bar as well, which was nice to see. Vic, over to yourself. And obviously, Tooney got the goal. Highlights mentioned their celebration as well, which was obviously nice. I know you've got a bit more of the story on that one as well. I know it's out there now, but obviously at the time. But yeah, what do you make of obviously the Toon goal and that kind of first 15 minutes from United?
Yeah, the celebration was for my friend's little boy. She met him at the hospital a few days before, and he asked her to do a DJ Toon celebration. So that was really lovely that she'd listened and followed through with that just a few days later. But anyway, yeah, great goal. I think we should have been at least 3-0 up half time. Mallard should have scored or at least crossed it, because there was someone else waiting. And I do find that with Mallard and Jays, that just finding that final pass is a struggle for them, making them decisions. But I hope after the winter break they can, keep kind of maturing with that. We played some good football. Millie again, yeah, she hit the crossbar. So there was a few chances that we should have finished off, to be honest. But apart from that, first 20 minutes, yeah, exactly. 3-0 up, first 20 minutes, and then it just went downhill from there. I mean, we couldn't have had, as a United fan, we've lost to two massive rivals, City home and Liverpool home. I mean, it doesn't get much worse, to be honest. Yeah, not good. But I'm glad everyone's finally shut up about Tooney being off form, because she's actually the only one that look like she actually wanted to do something with the ball yesterday until Jays came on. She shouldn't have left that pitch at all yesterday either, so I will add that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just ridiculous, really.
I think, Barry, over to yourself on this. It is hard, as Charlie said, that obviously we're trying to pick the positive in it, but because of how quick and how heavy the drop-off was, it's hard just to focus on that kind of 15-minute period. But, as Heinlein said there, Tooney's already equalled her goal tally from last season. Obviously, hope with the pick-up in form. And, I don't just think with the goals, I think everything else she's doing in and around the pitch, I think she's definitely getting back to where we know that she can be in terms of her impact on the team, not just goals as well. But, yeah, what are you saying on Toon and her kind of performance in the game, obviously, but that first 15 minutes of the goal itself?
Well, I'm not going to be shouted out for mansplaining, but surely that's what form is. If you're out of form, then you start doing well, you're in form. People aren't going to have a go at you for being out of form while you're in it. I don't know. But she's absolutely nailed it about the last month, really. And to be fair, I came on a month ago and sort of said, well, her stats aren't necessarily suggesting that she's out of form. But what we're seeing from her over the course of the 90 isn't the Tooney that we would expect to see. So she was still coming up with moments. And I've always said that Ella Toon has the ability in any given moment in a football match to just do something that switches it on its head or something magical. And you can watch the tapes back. Always said that. But it's good that she's now playing with that smile on her face again. She's a bit more energetic, a bit more with it. I don't know, maybe she was pining for Lessie for a little bit. Now Lessie's gone. Who knows? She wasn't. We know she wasn't. I just wanted to see what Vic's face would go like, and it got exactly like I expected it to. So that was wonderful. Sport, that's what I'm doing now, just literally just shooting ducks in a barrel, because what else is there to cheer about after we talk about this? But no, Tooney was superb. Like you said, the first 20 minutes looked really good. From what we saw on the TV there. And to be fair, Millie Turner needs to score that. You get to these points where if you don't take these chances, it comes back to bite you. And Millie obviously did eventually get a header on target. It was just off the wrong target, which I'm sure we're going to get to. So a bit disappointing, but there we are. So listen, it was really good. That first 20 minutes, but you can't win a football match in just 20 minutes. You've got to be on it for the other 70. And I'm sure we're about to get into, quite how that drop off occurred. But yeah, for me, Ella Toon, absolutely superb. And that's good to see, because she's been one of my favourite players for a while. And it's not nice seeing her not do well. And unlike other certain favourite players that I've had, she's maintained her dignity.
No, I certainly agree on that one. It was it's so annoying because when you watch the replay, obviously the highlights back, and we think back to that first kind of thing, how good it was. As I said, obviously the quick play and everything else we've been crying out for. I see you start this, Barry, and I'm really intrigued as well as to who
the
that is.
venues I started, which I couldn't see what Lincoln they were. The duck is obviously mallard, but is that a Christmas tree, an alien, and a tent? Is that what that is?
I don't know what that is.
genuinely can't see it. It's so
Is it the
small.
Eiffel Tower?
It looks like a rocket. Yeah, it's a rocket, isn't it?
Is it?
It's a rocket? No, that's a tower. There's no way that's a rocket.
Is it
The
not
Eiffel
Toon?
Tower.
Or is it like the Olympic torch or something with a flame on the top?
It's a rocket.
It's the Eiffel Tower.
Wait, no, it's the
It's an
Eiffel
electricity
Tower.
pylon.
It's
Tower.
Riviere. It's French. Is it not French Canadian?
Oh,
or
hang
something
on.
like that?
When you go on your phone on YouTube, it's definitely a tower. It is the Eiffel
It's
Tower.
a tower.
When you look on your phone, it's definitely the Eiffel
So the
Tower.
question is, who's the Eiffel Tower?
No, who's the alien?
No,
That's the one that worries me, because that one feels a bit rude.
the Eiffel Tower. Who's
E.T., Ella Toon.
French
That's what I
Canadian.
said.
Is
E.T.,
that,
Ella Toon, Eiffel Tower.
I said that, but
Oh, here we
it's
go.
not-
Haley Ladd.
Lads, Ella Toon, Nick Paris, obviously with the Eiffel Tower. See.
Oh, because yeah.
Ella Toon. Oh, E.T. E.T. is the alien.
Yeah,
I see why I
what-
said all.
what's
I
the
see why I
tree
did the
for lad?
preface. Christmas
Lad,
tree. 12 lads of Christmas.
Oh, for God's sake.
She's not impressed with that one.
Oh,
But yeah, the others. Okay, so Ella and Nikita Paris, of course.
Were you giving us something to laugh about?
I should have saved this for the Christmas cracker one, Enzy. You can do me there with some more. Then you can come in on the Christmas cracker show for this, because that's quite entertaining.
Indeed, that was quite good. That so we'll definitely be seeing more of that hopefully over the next 2 weeks. Oh god, we're gonna have to talk. Right, Charlie, over to yourself and for the equaliser. I've seen loads of people being put at fault for this. Obviously, the cross in the first place, you'd like to hope it's blocked. It's not. Obviously, it comes off Millie Turner's head. Could she do better? I've seen some blame, obviously, pointing towards Earps. Again, I don't think she can do too much with this one. It sounds bad saying where do you put the blame on this one, but overall, where do you think United went wrong with that equaliser and also just losing control of the game at that point?
I think the way that goal came about is how teams have been playing against us really successfully all season. So it was a really quick attack from them, I think from their keeper, and within 3 or 4 passes, there's a cross going into the box. I feel like when I watch at the moment, a bit like when I watch the fellas, it's like, why does everyone else play much better, more efficient, effective attacking football than we do? Like even the Spurs game, I know we won 4-0 if you just look at the scoreline, but there were times Tottenham played better attacking football than us at times. They were just a little bit less clinical. We would have been in trouble there had they been clinical. But we're just so easy to play through from back to front. The only person pressing with any real intent during that sort of half of football was Ella Toone. But again, what's the point in a one-person press? Like, none. There's no point in it at all because all you're doing is one person that ends up being out of position. Just dead easy to play against, dead easy to get crosses in against. Last season, I think we talked about how good Mary was at coming. I'm not blaming her specifically for the goal. That's not what I'm doing. But coming and claiming things, and that's not happening. There's clearly a lack of communication or trust amongst the backline that we've never had before. Just dead easy, just easy to play through from back to front. And that's not an individual winger problem or an individual midfielder. It's the whole thing. Defensively, our setup is really, really poor, but from the front all the way to the back. Just find it really frustrating. 3 or 4 passes and they had the ball in our box. Whereas we're like, to you, now it's going to, like, you can literally, when Mary's got the ball, you can literally with us go, right, she's going to pass to her, and then she's going to pass to her, and then she'll pass back to her, and then it might go to a fullback, and then it'll come back to the centre back, and then it'll go to Zellum, who's got 3 players on her because she's the only one that drops deep, so she'll have to pass it backwards. It's just boring. And if we can see that, what is a professional coach of an opposition seeing? Easily those same things. It's just dull. It's boring. Liverpool did what we should be doing, which is breaking really, really quickly, using the ball efficiently and effectively. And we didn't deal with it.
I think you only have to listen to Matt Beard's comments after the game talk, basically saying how easy it is to play us. You know, that if they're going to press us like that, we'll just bypass it. And they did countless times, especially in that second half. I think that's the frustration. If we can see that, not just one off, we've been saying this is the first game of the season, of this season against Villa, where we're saying we're really slow on the ball. And when we're actually defending, we're so slow to get out to the ball. And it's only 1 or 2 players pressing. As you said, then you've got 1 or 2 players out of position. And the whole team defensively, it's not an individual. The team set up defensively is all over the place. I think you could play anyone in that back line or midfield, and it's going to look all over the place because of how it was set up. Vic, for yourself, what do you think went wrong off the back of what Charlie just said there in terms of losing? You just turn your in terms of losing control of that first half, because I said we were pretty dominant in the first 20, and then all of a sudden it just seemed like Liverpool just had more of the ball and most of the chances after that.
Yeah, I think it just literally flipped. I think the problem was with the goal, it got lost in the midfield, and then, I mean, Millie tried her best, didn't she? I will say, though, when I watched it back, the commentators were awful. I don't know who they were, and I'm not going to say the names anyway if I did, but they were awful. They were like, oh, it's handball, it's handball. It clearly came off Millie Turner's head. Like, I saw that from where I was sat. Like, never mind them zoomed in. Like, they were like, oh, it's handball. And then 10 minutes later, they go back to it again and like, oh, no, it's Millie Turner's head. And we're like, seriously? Like, how did you not see that? But no, I think fair enough to, I hate saying this, but the Scousers were the better team, I guess. After the first 20 minutes, they literally took over, and I could literally just see us not coming back from it. As soon as they levelled, I thought, that's it. But yeah, I mean, I guess Matt was probably right. It is Matt, isn't it? Yeah.
Matt Beard,
I thought it was. Yeah, I think he was probably right. We were easy to play against yesterday. We couldn't keep the ball. We had players not even fighting for the ball. I mean, Zal was just losing the ball 24/7, winning it back, and then it wasn't going anywhere. There was lots of players like that. Leah Galton, don't know what she was doing. People were making good runs, and there's nobody in the box. That front line, there's nobody in the box when they need to be. There was one that second half, I think it was, Tooney literally got the ball straight down, crossed it in, nobody there. And I thought to myself, you've just made a really good run. She brought it right from the back all the way to the front of the pitch, and there's nobody there. That's your job. Get in the box and get cracking. You're 2-1, you're losing, and they just weren't doing anything about it. And there was nothing more infuriating than watching that game yesterday. I think that was the worst in the City game, to be honest. But then I think to myself, we won 5-0 against West Ham. We were awful. We won 4-0 against Spurs. We were awful. There's actually not been that many games that we've played well this season. Yes, there's been some positives out of every game. But when I say some positives, I mean 1 or 2. We just haven't clicked. And I hope the second half of the season, hopefully this trip to Malta in the sun will do more good, because something needs to give.
But there were things that worked really well last season. So you talk lots of people in the comments talk about the left hand side. Sorry, Barry, it should be you next. But Blundell and Galton that worked really well last season, and it was
not working.
Yeah, it's like what Vic's talking about. So times when Hannah would get the ball, but then Leah was almost behind her. It was
yeah,
I don't understand.
Everyone's out of position all the time. It's Tooney's always at centre forward. Millie's coming forward. Millie, I thought Millie played really well. She's player of the season for me so far anyway. She literally centre back, she's getting right forward. I mean, I said it on the show a few weeks ago, put her at centre forward. She's the only one that's actually trying.
The left hand side feels like I turned to some person who stood next to me at the game. They had the unlucky job of being stood next to me, and I said, do you remember that Mourinho's near the end for Mourinho when the fullbacks would get the ball and then they would run, and it looked like they could be away, and they would stop dead on the halfway line. Stop dead, it was you've been told. They must have been told. That's what the left hand side feels like. It is so strange. Makes no sense to me at all. And then when they decided to start getting forward and play balls into the box, it was when Mallard had gone off.
Yeah.
So when she was on, we're not going to play balls into the box. This really good header of the ball that we've noticed we've got. We're going to do that when we've got Jace on, who's a lot shorter and would rather have the ball to feet and run at a player. It's the whole thing. I feel. It's not just about me, obviously, but this is the first time, this season, it's gradually built over time. Where it just feels like times feel defeated before we've even kicked the ball. That's how it's starting to feel as a fan. And when it got to 1-1, I literally thought, this is it, because you can see the body language. They've gone. This is it now. There'll be no coming back. And there's no fight. And
I was going to say the amount of players as well yesterday that I've never seen Zell get angry. I know, Connor, you mentioned Mayer as well. They were angry.
Mayer at the end, we might get to that at some point, but Mayer at the end, a picture tells
she walked around on her own, didn't she?
Yeah.
At the end. And I was like, you know what? It didn't even look like a team. It felt like 11 players playing for all different teams on that pitch yesterday after the first 20 minutes. And it is just such a shame, because the first 20 minutes, like we keep saying, was good. So what went so wrong after that, I don't know. But that's Mark's job, and he needs to do it.
I was going to say, Barry, for yourself, what do you think of? There's a lot of comments I'll get to after, Barry. You've had your say on this, so there's a lot of obviously conversation about substitutions, a lot about individual players and all that kind of thing. So I do see all your comments. I've started. I'm going through starring some of them now, so I will come back to them in just a second. But yeah, Barry, for yourself, what do you think went so wrong? Charlie and Vic have made some brilliant points there in terms of what they saw and obviously what we think went wrong. But how did you kind of see it?
I think they were both absolutely spot on with the things they've mentioned. But I suppose from my point of view, it's like we said, the first 20 minutes were good. And we did work hard. I think the big problem that I noticed whenever we seemed to get the ball forward was there was no movement. People just stood there waiting for the ball. I see Dan's put in there that there's backwards, sideways passes where you've got no choice. If people in the box aren't going to move around and try and offer a bit more of a moving target and a bit more of a dynamic run at those times, then you're not going to get the ball to them. And that's just simple, really, in that respect. So there needed to be better movement for a start when we were attacking. I think defensively, Liverpool did incredibly well. They did smother us. They did press well. We didn't get much time in the ball. So when we did have it, it wasn't good enough. Because we weren't able to get the ball where we wanted to get it to quickly enough. So that took a while. Thank you very much, TJ. Yep, glad somebody agrees. So I think those were the first sort of two things, really. Defensively, we've been atrocious from crosses. We're just not doing as well as we could do with that. Millie Turner was unlucky, really. I think it was one of those. The head was stooped. I'm sure, she's not trying to edit it past anyone's just trying to get her head there to stop the ball. It's not handball. That's a ridiculous statement by anybody, really. Again, when we were watching it earlier on, kind of we both said, it could be handball here, and I'm like, handball? You're having a laugh, ain't you? And it was only when you said no from the Liverpool player, and I'm like, no, absolutely not. So there was no handball there for me. Where it went wrong for me is when Martin Ho left, if I'm brutally honest, because we've not been right since then. Martin Ho went, Rousseau and Honor went, didn't matter quite so much to me. We then got rid of a record, bye Charlie. We then had a record number of players leave, like just gone. And we spoke a lot about how that affects morale and how that affects everything behind the scenes. And that's a part of it. We've then brought in new players. But you look at the team that we played today. Mary Earps, supposedly best goalkeeper in the world. Blundell, Turner, Letitia, Riviere. That's the only change, Riviere, in that back five. The rest of it is the defence that conceded barely any goals last season. The midfield, everyone asked for Hayley Ladd to be playing on Thursday. She's in there. Hayley Ladd, Katie Zellum. Did it make a massive difference for this one? Probably not. Ella Toone, Leah Galton unlucky to hit the post, but obviously Tooney put it in the end, so it didn't matter. Nikita Paris, our top goal scorer, and of course Mallard was playing as well. Now, this is the team people were asking for. All right, Jays wasn't starting, but we knew that she could be an impact player. It's not like she's come in and scored hundreds of goals so far. And that's the sort of thing that you want, actually. A player like that coming on 60 minutes is going to absolutely terrorise any defence. Just when they're thinking, oh, God, we've only just got past Galton and Paris. Now, all of a sudden, you've got Jays coming in and she's going to tie you in knots. That should be causing a problem. It didn't. Both of the goals were avoidable. And I just think to myself when I look at it, there's something else that's wrong. And I don't know what it is. You talk about these players that are getting angry with each other. It's bizarre. It's bizarre because they were so together this time last year. So what has happened to put them in a situation where they're so angry and where they're so shouty at each other? Are some people switching off? Are there problems with, I don't know, I'm spitballing here. So this is very much a Barry-only view. This isn't based on anything I've heard or been told. But is there problems with, watching people like Mary Earps behaving the way they're behaving behind the scenes and still being given the starting spot when there's other people that are working hard being told they're not going to get there? Is there attitudes? Are we seeing some of the things that happen in the men's team where, the players just seem to drop for a bit and there's some people that don't agree with that? I don't know, but there is something very, 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 very wrong with regards to what is happening on that football pitch at the moment. And I don't really know where you would put your finger on it with that one. But for me, it's not right. None of us expected to have this against Liverpool. And maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe the players felt that too, and then just got themselves a little bit flustered when actually it turned out it wasn't quite right. But there's something wrong. Dan's just called it the culture, and he's right. That there's something that's not available this season that was there last season, and the main difference there for me is Martin Ho. Who is this assistant manager that we're meant to have put in? Is he any good? Do we know anything about him? I'm not getting you started at all. I'm asking questions for people in the comments to answer if they want to, but he's hardly been put under some sort of fanfare, has he? So, you hear about physio going off.
Yeah, but Barry, don't you think it says it all, though, that a club of this size, Martin Ho's gone, that won't have been random, I'm sure. There would have been some build-up to that. And it got to the point where, obviously, pop a little advert on Twitter that everyone can have a go at, and then just bring in someone that the gaffer knows as a last resort, who's taken Nottingham Forest under 12 to the semi-final of a county cup. Your nutritionist has gone to England women rugby. No issue with that. That's probably is a step up on the international stage. But still, what's happened with that? There was an advert went out. Poor Charlotte Healy, as well as being the first team coach, is also just leading on all the adverts for the jobs that Manchester United women have. The physio's gone to the men. It's
But see, this is the thing. I said weeks ago that the assistant manager has to be somebody that the manager wants. This is the assistant manager should never be a situation where that's a hiring from above the manager. The manager needs to come in and have the people in the backroom staff that they want to have. This is another one of their live and die by their decisions things. Now, if the case is that Mark Skinner's brought in this assistant manager and it's his recommendation, this is who he wanted, that's a Mark Skinner problem, if that's what he said. But at the moment,
why wasn't that person in from the start?
Exactly.
If that's really who they wanted, why was he not in from the start? It doesn't. I know that's what you're saying. We're not having a fallout, guys. Me and Barry are spirit animals.
Hell no.
But that's what I don't understand. I'd love it if I was mates with Charlotte Healy and she went, "Oh, we've got what's your football qualifications?" Charlotte, "Oh, my son plays for Ashby United Mavericks. I go and watch him on a Sunday, and I have to work really. I sometimes tell him to shoot. Can I come and have a go? Yeah, of course you can. It's just so. It just obviously he'd be slightly better than that, but it just feels. If this was the guy for the job, why did he not get the job in August? Why is it now? I just feel
because
like
standards
have slipped. Standards have slipped.
We was on about it the day before it got announced, weren't we, on here? And then it was all over Twitter, and then the next day it's been announced. I was like, that is.
But was it a case?
They just literally said, "Oh, excuse me, come here. We need to tell everyone that we actually have got someone."
But this is the problem. Is it something that is higher than Mark Skinner, or is it not? Has he been told this is who I want and they haven't got it? Is it that actually wanted somebody else and that person wasn't available and we've been trying to get them? The actual conversation just isn't being shown to us. It never is. This is Manchester United after all. Why would they want to tell the fans what's going on? But honestly, it's blowing my mind that whatever is going on behind the scenes, because they are so secretive about just about everything. On the whole business of how Manchester United Football Club is run, it's just a joke. It's an absolute clear message to the world of how not to run a football club. And honestly, the rate it's going at, I mean, we are just going to have years in the wilderness, not just in the women's side, in the men's side as well. It's going to be atrocious. To be honest, it's going to be like supporting, I don't know, Liverpool in the 90s and 2000s.
I'm glad I missed that era. I was born just at the back end. Well, the back end of Liverpool's success and the start of United's success on the men's side, which was good. So I was born kind of in the right, the right time period there. Right, I want to get back to some of these comments because there's been so many that I've kind of starred over the last kind of and want to come back to because there's been so many good ones over the last kind of 10, 15 minutes or so. Where should I start with some of these? Obviously, Sporty mentioned Jay. She was talking about how she was out on the right wing screen for the pass, and it always went the opposite direction. We do seem very one-sided at times when we're in attacking transition and so on. Paul's obviously mentioning Matt Beard, was able to change his team in the game. Mark Skinner can't seem to do that. This is my problem. I think he did, and I actually think it made us worse. And I think that's something we'll get to next as well. We're obviously talking about subs. NT saying it was the only game of the season where I was generally disappointing our players. The lack of drive is an off one. Is a one-off. Yeah, agree on that one as well. Obviously talking about Dan's mentioned there, Jason Manley both starting. This is the thing that annoys me the most. We've got two absolute elite forwards that tore PSG apart that will not since then play together. I don't understand. That's the one thing I'm looking at Mark going, why did we get on there? Mallard's only on loan at the moment. Obviously, she is starting at number 9 at the moment, which is what we wanted. But then Jace has been pushed out. Why? I don't understand that one. And I will say just very quickly on that, obviously there was people saying that Jace did come on in the end, and she did. But where and Mia's in the comments will be able to back me up, because where we were stood, the players were warming up right in front of where we were. And I wish I'd have got it on camera, but the reaction of Lisa Nelson and Jace when the first lot of subs came on, that was not a reaction of a team that is unified and that is like, oh yeah, that's a good sub to make and everything else. It was very much a, what on earth are we doing kind of reaction. And Jace looked visibly very annoyed and at full time as well. You can see it. You can see it on the players' face when they walk around. I think Charlie, you mentioned Maya Letitia earlier, walked around on her own, way ahead of the rest of the squad. So yeah, exactly. That's what it was. It was very much a what, which was baffling to me on that one. There's so many comments and questions. I don't even know which one to get to. I'll come to Sporties first, because it was the one that was quite a while ago. I don't know why this is directed just to me. I think maybe it's because I'm host and I'm bringing the comments up. Maybe, I don't know. I think we have to go to the question based on foot. I'm going to rephrase this because I don't think we need to go to that question. If it's what I think you're on about, because me and Barry were talking about this earlier, and I don't like this whole in, out, should he go, and all that kind of debate, because I just think he's not going to. So I think it's a pointless conversation to have. However, the conversation we do need to have in terms of what has massively gone off this season in terms of this disconnect clearly between the coaches and the players. Because, Charlie, I think we spoke about this after the game yesterday. Either the players are not as good as we think they are, which I don't think is the case, by the way, or that message from the bench and on the pitch is not working. Because everything Skinner says post-match and pre-match about games is the complete opposite to what we're seeing on the pitch. So that message is being lost somewhere. So, Charlie, we'll come to yourself first in this one. Obviously, talking about Mark Skinner, do you think what could be laid at his door from a blame point of view? What do you think he could have done yesterday that would have made an impact on the game? Because he did make subs again. Obviously, the double, I can't remember who it was. It was Garcia and Williams came on for Mallard and Paris on the 66th. And then Lisa and Jace came on for Ladd and Toon on the 73rd. Would you think it's a fair statement to say, like, for me personally, I actually think that made us worse, making those changes?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he could only bring. We'll talk about who came off for the players that came on at some point. But I think I will still say that other than Gemma Evans, they were the only outfield players he had at his disposal to come on and change the game. I think there is mileage in bringing Grace Clinton back. Honestly, I do. If you're gonna give a game time, I would have her back in a second. You saw the difference in Tottenham playing Arsenal against playing us when they had her back in the side. Like, she was the difference maker, wasn't she? Just unreal. I felt watching the game that our best players were Tooney and Paris was getting some joy. So I was surprised. I was surprised that it was those two that went off. I thought Galton had a poor game. But again, I'm looking at it from the outside. I think she didn't look great, but stayed on for the full 90. So maybe he thought she was going to have a bit of magic and she just didn't. I don't mind the subs happening when they happen, but I just think we're not seeing, like, we talk about some of our best performances and that second half at home against PSG, and we talk about the combination of Mallard and Jace on the pitch together, and we've seen minimal of that since. Like, Mallard comes off, Jace comes on, or vice versa. There's nothing exciting about watching them play, and I think they're exciting. Now, there is something exciting is when Jace gets on the ball. That's exciting every single time. That's exciting. But outside of that, it's just really dull at times. and it feels like there's no risk for reward approach. Everything is slow and ponderous and boring, and it must be quite easy to play against from a defensive point of view, because you're under no immediate pressure. That there's no quick balls over the top or minimal. When Maya gets the opportunity, she will try for it, but it's minimal. There's no quick breaks. Everyone's first thought is to pass backwards, it feels like at the moment. And the balls into the box come at the wrong time when the wrong player's on the pitch, it feels like. So just the style of play and the approach is very negative, and easy to defend against, and we're also easy to play against. Now, it's like we said, obviously, Honor has gone and Russo has gone. Honor has an impact. I refuse to believe, Russo is a talented footballer, but I refuse to believe that any issues we have in games in front of goal comes down to not having what was a 9 or 10 goal a season striker across all competitions. That doesn't have a massive effect. But we're creating so few problems for the opposition in numerous games going forwards. I think we talked earlier in the season that the first few goals we scored, the first 4 or 5 goals we scored, were exclusively from opposition mistakes rather than things we'd actually done that looked good. I still think the calibre of player overall is better than what we had last season, but we are not seeing the best of them. And whether that is they aren't able to put into practice what he wants, I'd be surprised if that was the case, because they did it last season to great success, to great effect, a loss of those same players. Or it's not being communicated well enough, which is down to the coaching staff, I think. But then you'd use Charlotte. I think you'd use Charlotte more, who's a good communicator, but that doesn't seem to be her role. Or the alternative is the players just aren't doing it, which means they aren't invested. And any of those things is a problem. Any of those things is a problem. And I think Vic might have mentioned, or perhaps Barry, is the level of fight and intent from the players isn't there. And that has to come down to the belief in what they're doing, I would think. Because you can look at Leicester. Leicester had a good start to the season. They've petered out a little bit, but you'd still never watch them and go, they're not pressing, they're not trying, they're not fighting for every ball. And I've never ever thought that about us before until recently. And that's my biggest concern. You can lose a game of football, that happens. But to go out with a whimper the way we are in numerous games at the moment, that mentality shift from last year where we never went out with a whimper, in fact, we just kept going and we scored goals late on and we won a lot of games, that is completely different this year. And that's not caused by Honor and Russo going, I don't think. There is more to it than that. And that's my biggest concern. Not losing an isolated football game. It's the way their heads drop. It's the way they approach things. It's when things aren't going well. It's how they react. It's the complete opposite to last year. That's my biggest concern.
And I think this goes back to the point of what the other difference is, and it's Martin. That's the only other difference from last season. When you're looking at it from what we're seeing on the touch, obviously I know other people behind the scenes have moved on, and that, you know, it's a fair point. You know, asking is it his tactics or Martin's? Maybe there was more to what Martin offered behind the scenes than people realise, and obviously now that's gone. It's essentially a new start under Mark Skinner from that point of view, and that's why we're seeing a little bit of shaky result. We saw this when he very first came in. You know, the results were shaky. There was a lot of draws. There was a bit of this as well. So yeah, I think going back to yourself, Vic, on kind of what Mark could have done different in the game. Obviously, when we're talking of subs, is obviously the big one that he did make, and I know me and you have spoken about this, and I can't believe I'm actually going to say this. This is one of the first times I've looked at him and gone, he should have taken Zalem off. And I think doing that, leaving her on, taking Ladd off, it just exposes her again. And she is not the reason we lost yesterday. And I'm sick of people just blaming her. Every time we lose, it's her fault, every single time. But by taking Ladd off and leaving her on her own, which I keep speaking about, she cannot play that lone role, that, where I say it made us worse. We basically just opened our midfield up and just went, there you go, Zalem, have the whole midfield on your own, and you've got to dictate that whole kind of 40 yards on your own against 4 Liverpool midfielders. It was never going to work. So I think if you're going to take somebody off, it would have been her, because I thought out of the two of them, Zalem was the worst performer out of her and Ladd. But What would you have done watching from the sidelines in terms of subs? What would you have done tactically changing the game? What else would you have done or like to have seen Mark do?
Well, I was sat there and I looked to Nat and I said, when he'd made all the subs, and I said, Nat, I said, look at the bench. I said, there's one person on the bench, and it was Gemma Evans, one outfield player left. And I thought to myself, well, last year, there was still loads of subs left. And I get we've got injuries, but a lot of the injuries we've got would get into the starting 11 as well. So obviously that had put subs out. But I just thought to myself, like, what's happened to all our players? Like, where are they? And then I looked up at the box and there was 7 United players sat in the box. And I thought how it's actually quite sad. So I do like sympathise with them a little bit, the fact that they have got so many injuries, but it's kind of no excuse. And Mark's got good enough players to have on that pitch so that we can win games. I think he was absolutely out of order taking Ella Toon off. I thought that was actually quite mean of him. She was fantastic yesterday, and she has been for the last few weeks. And I just thought, like, what a shame. She came off right in front of us, and she was furious. And I know she always doesn't look very happy, but she was absolutely furious. She took the longest time to walk round as well. I don't know why he took her off. Rachel Williams, obviously, you'd bring on because it's Rachel Williams. I thought Leah Galton should have come off. I didn't think she deserved to play a full 90. I don't think she's been on form all season, and I don't know why she keeps starting. I would have the front 3 as Jays, Mallard, and Nikita Paris, and switch things around a little bit. I really like Mallard and Jays, but they can't finish the final pass. I don't know what's going on there. Like I said before, I'm hoping, training camp will do them good, because I do think that I think they'll get there, but at this moment in time, they're just a bit sticky in the final third. On the ball, they're both absolutely fantastic. Like Charlie said before, Jade, she's like so exciting to watch when she's on the ball. But it's just the final pass, and that's, I feel like, what we're missing at the moment. And it's not Russo, like everyone keeps saying. She's not scoring for her team either, so it's definitely not her that we're missing. But I don't know what it is, but I just feel that final pass is just not there this season. We're just not scoring goals like we were last season, and it's a shame because, like Connor said before, we haven't actually changed that much, which again could be a problem. I mean, I always say don't change something that's worked so good, but we have to have some changes and something has to give. The other sub, Garcia, I thought she played well against Leicester. She's just not as exciting as other players, but when she's on the ball, I do like her, and I think he needs to give her a chance as well. I think he should have brought her on a little bit earlier. And I'm trying to think who else. Oh, he took Nikita Paris off, which I thought was silly as well. Yeah, I don't know why he took Ella Toon and Nikita Paris off. And I don't know who said it before, but we were putting crosses into the box, but once Mallard had left the pitch, and I was like, this is what we've been wanting the whole game, and it's not happened, and now it's happening. There's nobody there. So I do think I actually really like Mark, but I said it against the FA Cup final, and I've said it all season. I don't think he subs well, and sometimes he chooses the team sheet, and I'm like, what is going on? But I don't think he makes his subs at the right times, and I don't think he actually thinks about them logically of how the game's going. I think he sets it out before the game. Oh, I'll bring you on at this time, bring you on at this time. Like, he needs to wait until we're in the game and see how it's going. Sometimes I feel like it's a fixed sub, which it shouldn't be. But yeah, I mean, it's hard because we're not the manager, and I don't want to fault him of his job, but I'm going to, basically. I think he made some bad decisions yesterday, and it's something that he needs to look back on, evaluate, and hopefully he can make that better in the second half of the season, because something needs to happen.
Yeah, and Barry, kind of over to yourself in terms of what you would have done differently yesterday. Obviously, talking about Mark, because I think Victor there in terms of mentioning obviously his subs alone. I don't think he's speaking very well either at the moment. I think that is really starting to, me personally, when I'm listening to him. Last season, it didn't really bother me as much, but things he's saying this season, I'm like, I think we said it earlier, like making excuses, making the things he's coming out with. I'm like, you just don't help yourself, do you? Like with some of the things he's saying in these press ups. So it's not just his subs for me. But for yourself, obviously, we mentioned the subs there. It was, like I said, Williams, Garcia for Paris and Mallard, and then Lisa and Jace for Ladd and Toon after 5 minutes after they'd scored. But yeah, what's your thoughts on all of that and everything that Charlie and Vic have just had to say on that one?
I'm not too fussed about the subs. Obviously, the thing I would do is I would sack Mark Skinner and I would put Twalumber in as the manager, because clearly this person is the best one since Alex Ferguson, knows everything about football, an absolute don of a human being here. So yeah, I'm Twalumber in, because clearly after about 5 minutes in the job, he'll realise he hasn't got a clue what he's talking about, and then we can sack him, and that'll be the end of that, or her. So I just had to get that out there, because I've just watched it's an absolute diatribe of just diarrhea out of there, and I can't take anymore. I'm sorry. I've tried to ignore it, Connor. I've tried really, really hard, but I can't do it. And I've had to call it out. I've called it out before. It's best to try and ignore him, but it's very, very difficult. I understand. It's the equivalent of having somebody right in your face, just going for about half hour, and eventually you're going to punch him. So, there you are. Anyway, that's that one out of the way. Mark Skinner, he's got some problems. Problem number one. Told me I better go and catch it before it hits the floor. We've got a meeting in 10. I said, you asked me my score prediction, and I said if he plays Salis Joyce, we'll win 4-0. And if he plays Earps, we'll lose 10-0 with 9 own goals. It wasn't quite 10-0, but there was that. I maintain that's going to be an issue. The next thing I would say is that what was frustrating about this was, obviously, if we'd have won, would have been a point behind City and Arsenal, with Arsenal having Agent Thomas going in and doing her job against Arsenal there. She did her part, and then, ironically, we didn't do ours. And we'd even just before behind Chelsea. It's a very different conversation. We win this, whether we win it by not being all that great and just sneaking it, all of a sudden, the picture's very, very different. As it is, we're now in a bit of a problem. Top 3 is moving out of the way, and that's not ideal. Like you said, what he's saying is bothering me a little bit more this time. We had the bit where he said that we're not an established team, which I agree with, by the way. I don't think we are an established team as yet. We are establishing ourselves, because I've said before, we're only in our 5th year. So actually, it's really difficult to be in that sort of situation. But you can't then have that same argument that we deserve to be in the Champions League because we're one of the top teams in Europe. Like, if we're not an established team in the WSL, we can't be Champions League worthy side. So it's like he's forgotten what he said before. The one that really got me is how he wants to bring in more players, but we don't deal well with the players that we bring in. So is that a Mark Skinner thing? Is that a scouting thing? What's going on? Look at the players that we're bringing in. We're bringing in players that don't play. Leon came in. Granted, was she good enough? I don't know. Who's bringing these people in? She barely plays. Off she goes. Fuso comes in. Hardly plays. Off she goes. Bring in Clinton. Send her to 2 other places. She's absolutely knocking down trees. And what do? Don't play her. Emma Watson didn't really get much chance, obviously, but hopefully we'll see a little bit of magic from her eventually. But it's just frustrating to see that he would say, I want more players. Well, who does he want? Who does he want? You brought in a great goalkeeper from America. You don't play it. He's unlucky with the defence. I'll grant him with that. There's not a lot he can do about that. We've had far too many injuries, and that has made the defensive side of things tricky, and he does need to invest in order to make sure that the defence is shored up moving into the second half of the season. But midfield-wise, he brought in Nelson, hardly uses her. He's brought in a World Cup winner in Guerrero. Where is she? You know, we've barely seen some of these players being used, and he wants to buy more players. It's like, well, what are you after? You know, it's almost like a Poundland Chelsea at the moment, where we're just recruiting all the players that nobody else seems to want, and then just let them sit there. And then the people that do deserve to just sit there and have their career stagnate, we're not doing it with. So, you know, these are the problems that he's going to have. And if I'm brutally honest with you, I am, I suppose, ambivalent towards what happens next, because his contract ends at the end of this season. So the way I see it is that Mark Skinner has worked incredibly hard over the last few years since Casey Stoney left, and he's earned this season. This season is all him. And I said, like I say, a couple of years ago and also a couple of minutes ago, he will live and die by the decisions that he makes. I would say that the next 4 or 5 months of Manchester United's season, he's basically playing for a contract. I don't think it's a case of Skinner in or out. I think it's a case of he needs to achieve the objectives that we're expecting him to achieve, which is to be challenging properly for the top 3. And he has to do that. And if he doesn't, then I just don't think we'll renew his contract. It's not going to cost us anything to not give him a new contract. That's not being sacked. That's just, well, it's not even mutual termination, is it? It's just not renewing a contract. It's no different to not renewing your insurance and going somewhere else. You haven't cancelled him, you've not sacked him, you've just gone and used a different company. But I would still say, all these people that want to have the conversation about Skinner in or out, I still ask the question, who is the person that's going to come in and replace Mark Skinner to give us that opportunity to move on?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. A lot of people obviously were looking at the coach that's just left Barcelona. That's obviously not happening. Looks like he's going stateside anyway. So I don't know. I think that's definitely a conversation I'm sure we'll be having close to the time if that contract is not, or if he's not got a new contract by the time we get to kind of March, April. I think obviously with those conversations we'll be looking at as well. There's a couple of comments I wanted to make. You mentioned it there, obviously talking about the players. He wants the biggest. That was the one that really annoyed me because, I think Don's saying they're talking about adding depth, but he doesn't actually use the depth they currently got. We spent the most in the WSL and the transfer market, so we're either buying players he doesn't want or we're not getting the most out of them. You mentioned Guerrero. I know she's injured now, but the first few games of the season, the reason for not playing her, he said that she's not defensively up to it in the WSL, which is exactly what he said about Vilda. I'm sorry, Mark. I do still like the guy. That is on you and the coaches. You've got to fix that. With Vilda, he had a full season to fix that and then let it go. And then the way that they did that was disgraceful anyway. So when you look at it like that, that's on the coaches for me. You can't keep going on about a transfer window. And I agree, defensively, we do need addressing because we've literally got nobody else apart from Jim Redford's like only defensive backup right now. So we do need to sort that out. But other than that, I'm sorry, the players that are currently out injured, you're talking Watson, was she really going to be a world-beating player this season? In our first team, Jess Simpson obviously was out on loan anyway. Miyazawa has only just got injured in the last international break, and Guerrero, as I just said there, was apparently not defensively up to it in the WSL. Gabby George is the one I'll give him because she did start the season and obviously then did her ACL. But if your whole season is based around one player going out injured at the start of the season, I think we need to be asking questions about what we're actually doing. So, yeah, I don't know. My personal feeling toward, I think, very quick, because I'm conscious of time and we've still got quite a lot of questions and comments, things like that. Very quickly on Mia's question a bit earlier on how close is Skinner to losing his job. Do we want to have a quick run round on that one? In
5 months.
5 months.
And I'll tell you what, right? What we need to do is we've got plenty of money, put a fundraiser around if we need to, get 20 million and just give it to Emma Hayes. Can we get her to come? What a moment that would be. Emma Hayes ditches Chelsea, comes into United. And I'll tell you what, if she can't do it, then we might as well give up because I don't think
we'd have to wait at least a year. She's got to get sacked from the US national team first.
So, just pay the US national team off.
Would you trust? Would you but would you even trust? I don't think he is. I think it will go to the season will play out is what I think will happen. But good God, can you then imagine a summer of them trying to find a new manager. I just don't trust. I don't trust that. Like like any normal business, right? You know someone's going. Even we talk about players. You know someone's leaving. A coach, a nutritionist. You think, right, we need to forward plan for this. So we'll put the feelers out. We'll see who's out there. We might even try and poach someone. We'll garner some interest. We'll make it competitive, sell the product. I just don't even believe they'll do that. So it's
I feel the same
way
way about that as I do about this whole Skinner and Mary Earps thing. If Earps' contract isn't being renewed at the end of the season, we need to put the new goalkeeper in now. If Mark Skinner's contract isn't going to be renewed at the end of the season, they need to be finding their manager now. The US national team didn't wait until Hayes left and they went fancy coming over. They put it in place way before. I feel like we need to do the same thing if that's what we're going to do.
They should try and get Martin back.
I said that.
we were talking about that yesterday. Yeah.
You know, if you listen, like obviously United women, current United women, since they've been reformed, we must never forget there was one before. I've had 2 managers, okay, so far, and both of them, for any other faults they might have in their own way bemoaned the lack of investment and support that they've received. Now, if you're a top class manager like Emma Hayes or whoever else it might be, looking in from the outside, are you thinking, nah, I won't be able to do what I want to do? What's
I
the
think
point?
the question is, who's the
think
manager whose surname begins with S who's going to come into us? Because it's Stoney and Skinner, so it's obviously got to be somebody else. So
Rianne Skinner.
Oh, Rianne! Oh my God, kill me now.
You say that, it may well be. Can you imagine? That's the kind of thing I could imagine United.
I can. And then you think about all the times you've been stood there going, you know, we've got the better Skinner. Oh God.
I do think there is. We all know there's problems higher up, don't we? Like the Mark, and I do think it is difficult. But I feel like they're just using us a little bit of a joke at the moment. Like it's just a bit like, oh, it's the women's side. And it's just not on. Like it is not. Oh, hey up.
Ollie in.
God, can you imagine the toxic? There's already a toxic split in the fan base over Skinner. Can you imagine over Ollie like there was on the men's side? Oh my life. But no, I agree to a point. I think I can hear what you're both saying in terms of obviously the lack of investment. I think Mark's right to call it out, but I'm sorry, I feel like a bit of an excuse to me in terms of the players we've got right now. That should be doing a lot better. I'm not saying we should be winning the league or anything like that, but it should be doing a lot better than what we're currently doing.
Performances should be better.
Seeing.
Yeah. Like you can lose a game of football, you can lose the bottom of the table as a one-off, can't you? But overall performances should be better.
I just think the dynamic should be better, like the actual team.
Yeah,
like, it's just not there.
There's a name that's been mentioned quite a lot, and I don't know a lot about manager. I've got to be honest. I've got no idea who, but yeah, it's been mentioned a lot. So potentially, as long as United, as Barry just said there, if Mark is going at the end of the season, I think it's really going to depend on Champions League. I think if we get top 3, he might get another 2 years. I think if we don't, I think they just won't renew it come the end of the season. I just hope they're planning for that, because I think Sporty made a joke. Well, I say a joke, but he made a comment, and I agree. We'd be halfway through the season before we get a new manager, and it would just be like, Charlotte just kind of chilling there as manager. Not really.
The only team in the league that lets their manager go at the end of the season and has an interim manager for a season.
We could all just get a LinkedIn profile, and then we'd have a chance. This could be it. This could be my moment. I always thought my dream job would be that woman that follows them around with a camera. I feel like I could do that, follows them around with an iPhone. But got to throw your name in the hat. Opportunities like this only come around once. Why not? I'll be knee sliding down that touchline whenever we scored a goal. Big Sam. Yeah.
No chance. Oh, not one.
Sarah Sproston, she ends in an S. Sarah Stacey, we can either of them.
Scalzi.
Oh, God.
That'd be decent, that.
Oh, no, John, I would
no.
Just a name that was given to me yesterday when I was talking to somebody about this was Mark Sampson. Can you imagine if United pulled? Oh,
Gareth
no.
No. My face dropped then. Absolutely not.
But I agree on Ollie though. I think he got approached for the Norway women's international job, and obviously he turned it down because he didn't want obviously the connection with his daughter and so on. He didn't want that kind of favoritism and so on. But I wouldn't be against Ollie. I think gets the club and everything else. Give it another crack. I loved him managing the men's side, contrary to what people say about how it ended. I'd 100% take that back.
I think it'd be good to have someone who's already managed a men's side, a male side, because I think they're more strict, and I feel like we need a little bit of that.
Can you imagine having Polly on it? To be fair, it wouldn't surprise me at some point.
Oh.
No. Yeah, the less said about that.
Rachel Williams could take over instead of being a plasterer.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so nice. I love her. She'd be too nice to them though. Did you see what she was doing at the warm up yesterday? Like, what was she actually doing with Gemma Evans?
Was that when they were army crawling?
They were army crawling over each other. Then her Saf and Gemma were like diving on the floor, being goalkeepers. I was like, "What are you doing?" Then Gemma's giving us snacks out of pocket. I was like, "Oh my word! You're about to play a game and you're eating like chocolate biscuits." I mean, each to their own, but I'd have been sick.
It was the highlight of my game, actually, watching Garcia and Lisa Nelson just messing around on the touchline yesterday right in front of us and flicking the bands at each other. I was quite enjoying it, to be fair.
That's when I feel like there is some connections in this like club that are really good and haven't changed. Like Millie, Tooney, like they're still really close. And like I just don't see Mary with anybody anymore. And I just feel like maybe that's an issue. Maybe it's jealousy, the fact that she's getting so many awards and getting this.
Oh, is she? Is she? It's never mentioned.
Yeah, I think so. I think she's up for one tomorrow, but I think I forgot to vote. Oh.
I've got no idea. I will just say on that as well, when the players are warming up and they acknowledge you when you're sat in the front row, Mia will know exactly what I'm about to say here. You shout them once, they acknowledge you. Don't keep shouting their name. For the love of, someone was going to get thrown over that barrier. The amount of times this person was shouting for Jade, she'd waved at them twice. Like, you don't need to keep screaming their name after they've acknowledged you, right? Just leave them to warm up and do it. She was already like
they've got to be in
annoyed anyway. I don't know. But yeah, I will just quickly bring it. Not gonna lie, I've never seen this account in our live chat before. Solihull Saints, which is not that far from me actually. Solihull, talking about Wayne Rooney. Yeah, nobody. Villa fans are loving it, watching Birmingham fall down the table with Wayne Rooney in charge, aren't they? It wasn't. Maybe it was funny to you, but it certainly wasn't funny to obviously, well, to me, really. It was just winding me up. It was as annoying, and only Mia and Shannon are going to get this, as that Ring doorbell that kept going off every 2 seconds. That was really irritating us. Somebody was desperate to get in this guy's house. It's just every 2 seconds that Ring doorbell noise kept going off. Anyway. It was you. There we go.
You're the
Makes more sense now. And yeah, Mia, you were going deaf. How you couldn't hear her, I've got no idea. Yeah. Unbelievable. Anyway, should we roll it back to the player of the match that's been going for an hour in the chat?
I think we should take all of about 5 seconds.
If you know who's not won this, then I'm leaving.
No, Voldemort can't win it. No chance. The man for far, he can't play him. Plus he's dead. So those two things are not going to help.
I don't know. So I'll end the poll, but I'm assuming, have we all gone for the same, by the way? Have we all gone for Tooney on this one?
ET phone home.
ET7.
ET7.
Nice.
I've actually got a number 7 on my phone case. And it's not for that, but I don't know if you can see it.
Just about, yeah.
It says the lucky 7. Hey. I actually haven't got a Toon shirt.
What?
Would you believe that?
Well, no, I think it's a lie.
No, I'm not lying. I've got
Really?
7 because basically I fancy Mason Mount. So I've got just the 7, no name.
Who's Mason Mount? I've never seen someone called Mason Mount. Who's he
Well,
play
to be
for?
honest, he's not seen that much anymore. I'm hoping he's going to be sat on the bench next to me at Wigan vs United because I'm right next to the United bench.
Oh, unbelievable. And yes, Ella did win it by quite some distance. She went 56%, Riviere on 29, Turner on 9, and only the 3% went for Mary Earps that we just snuck on the poll there just to see how many would
That's a really good save.
Who's voted for Mary Earps?
Barry has,
Genuinely,
Barry has.
right? That's going to make everybody giggle, but I was the one who said that Mary Earps should be the 4th name on the sheet.
Well, someone
Just because of that save. And that should tell you everything you need to know about our performance yesterday.
3%.
Just very quick, we are going to have to wrap this one up in just a second. I'm very intrigued to see who you would have gone for. Like, who else? Genuine question. Like, who else would you have gone for if it's not Tooney?
He needs to not get me started.
I don't know who else could have won it.
Absolutely nobody. He's already said don't get him started on the defence. Katie Zellum is the worst thing to happen to Manchester United since I don't know.
Who's he even going to say here? Gemma Bonner.
I'm going to wait for the response because I'm really intrigued to see who else you would have said. Like, we've got to pick somebody.
Would it be hilarious now if we said Katie Zellum? The irony of that would be.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that the only person that voted for Mary Earps was the winner? I love this girl. I really do. Oh, you make my day, Amara. Love that.
And Highland, yes, I know. Obviously, I know we spoke on Twitter DMs a bit earlier about this as well. There's potentially a show coming out on Wednesday where we're going to look at the comparisons from this season to last season in terms of what has actually gone wrong, particularly from a defensive side of things. But over the Christmas period, we will be doing a lot more of these. Obviously, with no games, it's a lot easier for us to fit more of these kind of fan forum-y discussion shows in. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty for us to talk about this time. We were struggling last winter, because there was not really loads to discuss over the Christmas period, but there's plenty to dissect this window. So
yes,
I'm sure we'll be talking about all those things as well. Maybe that's the catch, but we'll go for that. I'm going to nick that, JJ, for the Twitter. And we'll go for that. Right, we shall wrap it up there. As I said, obviously, there's potentially a show on Wednesday. If not, the Christmas cracker, I'm sure, is this week at some point. Barry, it's got to be, considering Christmas is next Monday.
I mean, Christmas is literally 7 days away, and we're not doing it on Christmas Day.
So look out for that this week. It's a lot of fun. It's a bit, I say it's a lot more light-hearted, but a lot of our shows are. But it is a lot of fun. If anyone missed it last year, I'm sure there's going to be some. I don't know what Barry's got planned this year. But
It's just how much I like this pressure.
Just got to pile it on and think it's on. Paul, appreciate that. It's certainly growing, and the community is growing. As people may have seen, obviously, in my tweet yesterday, we've met a lot of people at games now, which is great to see. A lot more people coming up to us and recognise us around as well. Just come up and say hi, even if we have just lost to Liverpool. You know, we are approachable, and we will talk obviously about the game and about all other things as well. So it's nice to see. What do you bring it back up for?
Trying to work out who that is in the picture.
Yeah, I was looking. I thought, is that actually him? But then I think it isn't, because it looks like someone made of plasticine.
It does.
It looks like. Do you remember? Was it the game show Buzz? Like a thing on the. What were they called? It was like the 4 controller thing.
No, I think he looks like Mark Spate, R.I.P. But
hang on. Let me.
You have to help us out, Paul. Who is this?
Oh, okay, yeah, it looks nothing like the guy I thought.
Max Headroom.
Yeah.
And just to show you that I'm not going mad, the guy that I thought it looked like was that guy. Which.
Oh,
to be fair, he looks more like you with glasses.
So it wasn't that guy. But there we are.
And actually, if you still got that picture,
I have.
Put it back up again.
Do you want me to get a better one for you?
No, stick with that one. That one was fine.
Oh, I've changed it now. Hang on. Which one was I on?
The one that had, that one. Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say, did that look a bit like Charlie there doing the look? Here's Connor, but it wasn't. The hair's not quite right.
Oh, dear me.
Did he come back with his players match?
No, and I've not got all night, so
It was
And
definitely.
speaking of hair, can you believe that Connor said to me earlier,
Oh god.
give him 20 minutes? And I'm like, oh, whatever, before I rang him. And then when I did ring him, he went, sorry, that took a little bit longer than I expected. He'd washed his hair and he was expecting it to dry in 20 minutes. Like,
Did it actually
that's
take
still
2
a full
minutes?
day in the wind,
Mine does
surely.
not take. Mine takes 5 minutes.
5 minutes for you, Vic. See, I've
Yeah.
had hair for 15 years. I can't
I've
work
got
out.
really thin hair though. But I can like dry, straighten off my hair in 10 minutes.
There you go. You need to get some tips off of Vic.
It's terrible, Jake. Every time I come on here.
It
Shocking.
was only because we were talking about hair, Jake. It just clicked.
Oh, I don't know. What else we're going to say? Yeah, so make sure you like the video, subscribe, and all that stuff. Like, we are going to be live, obviously, over the Christmas period as well. I said there'll definitely be at least one more show this week, potentially 2. Over the Christmas period, we'll be having our wrap-up potential team of the season so far. We're going to change it from team of the year to team of the season so far. So we'll have that, obviously, looking at the transfer window as well as we get closer to January, all of that kind of stuff. We do have something that we are involved in being announced potentially this week as well, which is very exciting, that we've been working on for pretty much most of this year, to be honest. It's just taken the last couple of months to really ramp it up. So look out for the announcement on our Twitters for that one. I don't know. You always bring that up.
I can't help it.
It's getting cut next week, so it'll be shortened again for you. So it's not as long. Say every time. Oh god. So yeah, so there'll be an announcement on. It'll probably come from mine and Barry's Twitter in the next kind of. Oh, hi there. I see your comment. No chance. On that one. So yeah, there's something coming that we're involved in on that front. Make sure you're following the TikTok as well. I said that's going pretty well at the moment. If you like your edits and your short form content as well, there's a lot of stuff on there. We are going to start doing some new stuff on there coming the new year as well, with some potential lives with some of the guests that you see in the comments as well. So there's plenty to check out on there. Obviously the Twitter as well at WFC. Right, we've covered absolutely everything. Make sure you're doing all those things, following these guys as well if you fancy it, and we shall see you guys in the next one.